star power alone is not enough for this feud. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple of weeks, you would have realized there is absolutely no build for John Cena versus Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza this Saturday. They are solely relying on their 20-year history, which to a certain extent can make sense because they do have a very historic feud for, like I said, 2+ decades. It goes back to them entering the company and coming into OVW at the very same time. However, we live in a time right now in professional wrestling where storytelling, where the reasoning why matches are happening is more important than it's ever been. Let me break this down for you guys. The last 4 to 5 years, we entered this whole new Renaissance era that we love and sometimes hate. Like right now, there's a lot to hate as well, not to be cynical. But what essentially got us to where we are today? It'd be hard to argue against the infamous Bloodline storyline. Now, the Bloodline saga itself, what was the most important factor, the cornerstone to that entire saga? Storytelling. A reasoning as to why all these personalities came together, why they were battling it out, who turned on who. And that's what essentially launched us into this whole new era that we're in right now. That's allowed us to secure a deal with ESPN. Speaking of ESPN, since the announcement, I'm sure a lot of the viewers would have tuned into Raw and SmackDown to see what's popping before WrestlePalooza. And if these are new eyeballs that are being placed on the product, they want to see why Brock Lesnar, the former UFC champion that they're very well accustomed to hearing about, why he's going against one of the most famous people on God's green earth. John Cena is also a Hollywood star. So yes, the star power's there, but they're going to want to see more than just that video package that they keep playing every week. Now, that video package is tremendous. I cannot fault it. It puts everything into a perspective and almost a time machine as well, starting from OVW all the way till the current product. However, you've had a multitude of weeks to have John Cena and Brock Lesnar on the exact same show at the same time, at least a face-off. They've had no face-off. Brock Lesnar's come out a couple of times. He's laid out John Cena. He's come out. He's had this comedic little segment with R-Truth on SmackDown the other week. He rips his trousers. And by God, if he's going to rip his trousers, I'm glad he did it with R-Truth because there is no other appropriate time for that to happen. What I would have preferred with that segment is if Brock Lesnar came out, if they're not going to do a promo between John Cena and Brock Lesnar in the same ring at the same time, they could have at least had Brock Lesnar do a solo promo. Why is Brock Lesnar back? Why are we seeing him on our TV screens once again? The best example I can give to you is the return of AJ Lee. When she came back, her second show, Monday Night Raw, she came and explained why she left, where she was, what she was up to, and why she's back. 3 things that put into perspective for anyone, whether they're regular fans for the last 10 years, they know who AJ Lee is, or it's someone brand new who's never seen the product before. They know why this woman is getting a standing ovation, a pop, and why she's back on the TV screens. Brock Lesnar hasn't said a word as to why he's back, doing what he's doing, and why he's targeting John Cena. If John Cena was still the WWE champion, they could have probably got away with this a little bit more. But he's not even got a championship. Like, yes, okay, we can speculate and say Brock Lesnar probably wants to end John Cena's retirement tour before he retires. Okay, but would it really hurt to give Brock Lesnar the microphone? Who, by the way, unless he screams and he sounds like this weird creature, unless he's not screaming, the boy can actually cut a promo like Farmer Brock a couple of years ago. He was fun, dude. He was fun. And I know he can't necessarily be fun right now. He's not a babyface. But he can seriously still be great on the mic, even without Paul Heyman. But it's like they've just decided we're going to keep them separate and they're going to have the showdown. Now, what tells me the only direction they can go in with this is if they have a multiple match feud. So it's not going to be like one of John Cena's traditional retirement tour feuds where they're like sort of short bursts of feuds and he moves on to somebody else. Perhaps towards the end of the retirement tour, you have the final boss show up in whatever capacity, and perhaps he's the one who sent Brock Lesnar, and this kind of ties all in and makes a bit of sense. I hope they do something along those lines, because if this is a one-off short burst feud, just like Cena's had with all his other opponents, and it's a one and done, I'm going to be really disappointed, because it's like, you know, we got no explanation. Brock Lesnar made a shocking return, considering everything that's going on. We thought we would never see that man again. For him to just come back and not explain any of it, just attack John Cena, it's like, okay, and now we're going into the match. There's a time and place where we, as fans and anyone that watches and critiques the show itself, can excuse this. And that's situations like the World Heavyweight Championship for the women's side of things between Io Sky and Stephanie Varquer, where they don't have a actual feud going on. They don't have any sort of promos per se. They've got backstage segments, but that's totally understandable. Naomi's gone off to make a mini Uso, and she's had to relinquish the title. So they're sort of thinking on the spot. And when this happens in traditional combat sports anyway as well, it's very similar. So they don't really get to do all the press conferences and build up the entire fight itself. That makes total sense. But if you look at anything else on the card, like I mentioned, AJ Lee's return, coming back and feuding and giving her reasons as to why she's back on everybody's television screen, is all we needed with Brock Lesnar. Even if it wasn't with John Cena in the ring, even if we got on SmackDown before R-Truth came out, if we got 5 minutes with Brock Lesnar, giving us insight. And remember, ESPN, these sports fans, they are accustomed to UFC, boxing, and whatever other sports that they're going to be watching through ESPN. If they're going to be watching the WWE after a very long time, they know and they are expecting something different from your traditional UFC and your boxing combat sports, where there's less storytelling in those sports and there's more storytelling and narratives in the WWE. But if it's not being told, then it's like these new set of eyeballs are like, okay, I don't really know why they're feuding or whatever. I'm just going to go switch it off. Like, if I want to watch Brock Lesnar really go lay somebody out without a sort of story and a narrative, just because he wants to be the best, I'll just go and watch him beat the holy hell out of Frank Mir. I know Frank Mir also took him out as well, but you get my point. And that's exactly what it is. People are using the word lazy, and there is no other way to get around it. It's WWE being simply too lazy to put more substance into this feud. Now, I'll go on to something a bit more positive. I mentioned this earlier, AJ Lee returning, but the whole program between the couples has been so entertaining. Week on week, it's gone up a notch. It's sort of tied in a bit more personal elements. Just on this past Raw, we had the inclusion of AJ Lee's injury being mentioned, Seth Rollins sort of intimidating her, the sort of ego clash between Seth Rollins and his wife Becky Lynch, how that's playing and how they turned it around and they pulled the leg off AJ Lee and CM Punk last minute. All these things are telling such a good story, despite it being not the most favourite style of matchup, in that it's a mixed tag team match, because really, if we look at mixed tag team matches throughout history, they've never really been that popular. Of course, you had Stephanie and Triple H versus Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey, which was a great match. But really, other than that, like John Cena and Nikki Bella versus Miz and Maurice, and the diabolical Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans a couple of years ago back in 2019 was just hard to watch. So they don't always bang. This feud is banging because of the story they're telling, not just relying on the star power. Yes, they've got star power, but they're really explaining why AJ Lee came back, why she's coming to the aid of her husband. And not only that, but her focus, her indirect focus on the IC title, how she's taken it from Becky Lynch. Well, she took it from Becky Lynch, sorry. And she brought it out on the next night. She's sort of keeping it away from Becky Lynch. It's kind of like building up the individualistic program right there too. This is the art of storytelling. Another area in the company that's doing really well is the whole Usos program right now. I think this is the best we've seen Jey Uso since his OG Bloodline run. And I'm talking about where he was like giving the best facial expressions in the Bloodline. He was literally the right-hand man. Not just to Roman Reigns, but to the storyline as well. Like, he was bridging between Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. He was like the glue, not in terms of like being Sami Zayn's friend. Obviously, that was Jimmy Uso. But like, he was like the most important character in between the two. And his singles title run, him winning the Royal Rumble, him winning the World Heavyweight Championship, all great. Yes, I'm glad he got his time in the sun. But let's be honest, he didn't flourish there. He didn't blossom like he did during the Bloodline or during his time with Jimmy. Now, we're not only just getting the Usos back on our screen, but we're getting it with a twist. And those segments with Jey Uso, backstage, with his brother Jimmy, his sort of conflict and his problems he's having with LA Knight, the way he comes across, like, it seems so much more authentic. He seems so much more comfortable. And this potential sort of heel run, which is giving a similar vibe to sort of Roman Reigns 2.0. I mean, OG Bloodline heel Roman Reigns 2.0. The narcissism, the arrogance, the sort of thinking, you know, he expects and deserves more. The conflicts he's having with his brother back and forth. I love the story all these personalities are telling. So we know it can always be done. I just wish they gave more time for it to marinate between Brock Lesnar and John Cena. When I say time, I mean quality. I don't just mean the duration of time. I mean quality time, because they've had the weeks. They've literally had the weeks, and they've decided to keep these massive personalities and stars on different shows. John Cena just about finally mentioned Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's never mentioned John Cena other than saying, "I'll see you at WrestlePalooza, bitch." Like, that's all he did backstage. And I'm like, we have more in the tank. You know, if you go throughout history, Stone Cold, Mr. McMahon, Randy Orton versus Triple H, The Undertaker versus Kane, all these feuds weren't just stars, there was a massive story. And guess what? This feud between Brock Lesnar and John Cena, it has the story by default in terms of the history they've had. They could have just done a better job as to why are we seeing this in 2025? Why are we seeing two individuals in their mid to late 40s? And it's not a knock on them. They're both fantastic in ring and they're huge stars. I'm happy to see both of them. But why are these dudes going at it right now? John Cena's promo on Raw was so generic, was so lame. As much as I love him to pieces and he delivers the best promos, he delivered the shit sandwich on a silver platter. I'll give him that. But there was no substance. I didn't walk away from that segment with John Cena thinking, this explains why Brock Lesnar's been targeting him. It's like, last time they had a match, 2014, SummerSlam, Brock Lesnar wiped the floor with John Cena, and that it was the birth of Suplex City. It's not like John Cena's holding the WWE title right now where Brock Lesnar's coming for that. It's like, if Brock Lesnar's coming for the retirement tour and coming to end it soon, explain it. So really there's no justification for this whatsoever. I can understand everyone's dismay towards this. I am also very unhappy with it. I try to be as optimistic as I can. I understand sometimes things can't always be done the way you want them to be. But this is just darn right lazy. Am I going to enjoy the match? Absolutely. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star match, but it's going to be exactly what we expect it to be. I'm excited to see Brock Lesnar back on my screen. In a weird way, I know it puts us in a tricky situation where if this is a long-term feud, as in for a couple of months, and it's going to have more than just the match at WrestlePalooza between John Cena and Brock Lesnar, it puts us in a predicament where, okay, perhaps we're taking another slot away. We're running out of time with John Cena's retirement tour. But if we do this as a one and done, we're then left with, what the hell was that? That was an exhibition match. We literally saw Brock Lesnar come back for the ESPN crowd, and I think his UFC, try and do a knockout and leave. It's like, no. And one final thing I want to add in, I think it's to do with the cadence of what TKO is doing right now. I know they're under a lot of heat with the Saudi Arabia WrestleMania and everything like that. I'm going to make a separate video on that, and just to touch on that, because I don't think it's as bad as what everyone is making it out to be. However, the cadence of PLEs, it's just too much, and it doesn't give enough sort of time in the oven, enough time in the fridge to marinate and then stick in the oven and let it cook. There's literally this whole Papa H is cooking shit. Like, he's cooking nothing. Like it's raw. The chicken's unseasoned. There's nothing on it. And that's what we're getting. I'm not saying we're getting that with everything, but like everything just feels rushed right now. And in there creeps in feuds that have zero reason to be going ahead, like John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Anyways, I'm still looking forward to WrestlePalooza. I'm actually looking forward to John Cena and Brock Lesnar, like I mentioned, itself as a match. The other matches on the card look absolutely spectacular. There's great storytelling going in from that perspective. Thank God for that. And in the coming days, I'll be making a predictions video for WrestlePalooza itself. So keep it locked in on the channel, and I'll catch you guys then. Peace.